they ignore him. It's a basic like psychology against somebody who has NPD 101. It works 100% of the time. So I mean, he's getting played, and
I hope he gets impeached. I hope he gets removed.
he's not a very intelligent person, in my opinion.
Or what I hope, actually, what I hope is he doesn't get impeached or removed, then does something so blatantly fucking stupid that it will be clear to everyone that if the Republicans don't vote to remove him, that there's some big fucking thing going.
The country is so divided right now. I just think whoever wins it, regardless if it's the left, regardless if it's the right, um, the nation will suffer because it's like there used to be a time where we used to cross the aisles and shake hands with each other and be able to have civil discourse. But now people make up their minds before the argument even starts. Facts don't matter. It's just like our side versus their side, right? And that's very, very dangerous.
It harkens back to what I said earlier. You ask any Republican and go, if barring that, like, if this was a Democrat, let's just say, boom, Hillary got in, and this was Hillary doing. Would you not be calling for her head? Would you not be calling for the exact same thing the Democrats are? And if the answer is yes, then you have to vote to impeach. You have to vote to remove. You have to put your biases aside and go, this dude's fucking guilty. And remove his ass. But it's not gonna happen. Anyways, good night. I'm hovering over the disconnect. See you all maybe later today.
Oh, Solara, I apologize. I didn't know that our audio was getting all into your stream.
Oh, no problem. No, I mean, I believe in freedom of speech, so everyone can speak their mind. And I also I do appreciate Sophoclean type debates and things. But I do, I must admit though, Donald Trump has one thing that works for him really well, and that he's very lucky. I would love to have his luck.
That's an interesting observation because
I get sucked into bye. I can't get sucked into this. Y'all have fun.
One of the factors that they said is
Sweet dream.
have a go. One of the major factors of success they actually said is luck. Like some people just get lucky. Either they, start off with a whole bunch of wealth because they were born into an entitled family, or they just have these crazy life circumstances that line up where people get to an accident that actually didn't hurt them but won a lawsuit where they never need to work again. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time though. Super interesting.
But I find that life always has a way of balancing things out, because if you put, I put myself in the shoes of someone that's lucky, for example, that has won the lottery, for example, and or have won a disability case or something. They're, in a way, I find that they may find themselves to be in prison in their own mind and body, because they probably wish they could do things. They're probably looking at people who do things on their own and wish they could be like those people, even though they have everything. So there's a certain void that may be missing. I think maybe for my example is I've always been myself, never had to really struggle or worry, but I always admire people who can do things on their own, who can accomplish things on their own. And it really is sometimes I say to myself, oh, I wish I could be like that. So I think life balances out a lot for the haves and have-nots. The have-nots have something else that may be really valuable, which is they're very smart, or very resourceful.
That's interesting. And the thing is like I think that goes back to the original story. There's a book that was written by like something Cooper, but it's called In Cold Blood, and it's taught at a lot of different schools because it's it's a crime novel that asks a question on is evil something that is seeded in somebody from the very beginning, that they're just born that way, right? Whether you want to call it genetics, whether you want to call it this, whether you want to call it that, or they can grow up in a perfectly fine, loving family and still be messed up, right? Regardless of what circumstances happen to them. That's the concept of seeded evil, right? Where this person is just bad, regardless of their upbringing. And then there's the there's the other side of the argument, where is evil something that we generate in society, where somebody develops a specific mindset as a result of being exposed to certain things, right? And then they develop this destructive kind of persona and habits because they were exposed and they were raised a certain way, like they grew up in the projects. And you hear these stories as, yeah, you get people that grow up in really bad, like straight out of Compton neighborhoods, that end up in gangs and in jail, and they run drugs and they get involved in, because that's just the way life is in those places. But then you have people that rise up beyond the projects, and despite living in these really squalid conditions, still turn out to be good people. It's like
Oprah Winfrey. She turned out wonderful despite her upbringing, and she grew up in conditions like you.
yeah, like Keanu Reeves is a perfect example. I mean, he grew up.
Yes.
He had a really rough, and he's a pretty humanitarian guy. I mean, it's hard to say, but then you have people who grew up in like really squalid conditions that just turn out squalid. You have people that grew up in really good conditions that still turn out to be rotten eggs, right? It's just, I see so much.
I think there's a direct correlation between what we construed as evil and the amount of empathy one has within themselves. So I think people who lack empathy, that's proportionate with the amount of psychopathic tendencies that they tend to have. Because if you're not empathetic, first of all, we all are calculating creatures. We all are sentient beings that calculate everything we do, pretty much, even we may not think we do. And if you are a person that is not empathetic, humans are basically a means to your whatever you need to get in your life.
You become kind of cannibalistic in your own society.
Yes, so if I see that I can take advantage of a group of people to get ahead, I'll do that. It's just as simple of doing it for a person that's not empathetic. But if someone that's empathetic...
One fringe case to that, though, that I think is important to explore when it comes to empathy, because I wholeheartedly agree. I think empathy is a major factor. But one kind of strange fringe case is people with autism. Because there are a lot of people that are on the spectrum that are very low empathy because they have an autistic function that prevents them from generating that empathy, right? Because people that have autism have a condition that's called magical thinking, where they don't see things the way that other people would, and sometimes it causes them to view other people like objects. But despite
that's interesting.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that have magical thinking, that have autism, that turn out socially fine, that have friends, even though they have very low empathy. They still live an entire lifetime as upstanding citizens, despite the fact that they are not able to put themselves into the shoes of another person, but they still know the limits of, yeah, you're not supposed to treat people this way, right? Even though they're not able to feel the empathy because they're autistic, but they still don't become predatory.
That part, one of the things I did in my studies. So part of my background is a psychology. Of course, I never completely completed my degree in that, but one of the things that was interesting about. So there can be a case where someone's empathetic but may not know how to express the empathy. So they can
That's
still be empathetic, but
interesting.
not be. Yes. So, for example, I know that you might care for me and you're concerned for me, but I don't know how to show that I'm grateful, or I don't know how to respond, yet I can feel it. I can sense it.
That
And there
is
are.
very interesting because it's not basically it's creating the parallel that the people that are autistic and have magical thinking, it's not that they're not capable of empathy. It's because they are unable to translate their feelings of empathy into something other people
And that's
understand.
pretty much, yes, communication, the ability to communicate. And of course, everybody has different ways of communicating. You may have probably heard well, there was a book that came out once called The Five Love Languages. And some people, they express things through giving gifts to someone. Some people will actually say they love you or they care about you. Others may actually give you a hug, or touch you in a certain way to make you feel like they care for you. um, Others will do favors for you, as a way to express. So there's
That
different
is
types of.
interesting.
Yes. So one of the I notice, especially with autistic people, they may express their gratitude, for example, like starting a corporation like Facebook, and then buying all their family members cars and homes or whatever. And that may be their way of expressing their gratitude. While another person may express their gratitude by just spending, every day, every chance they get with their ailing mother, in a care home, caring for her, and unconditionally, no matter how hard they're working and busy they are, they'll actually make time. They'll sacrifice and spend time, in close proximity, companionship. So it's a very different. They're all love, actually. It's all love. It may not seem like one thing is as much of a love as the other, but it's all love, but it's in different languages. And I know there are actually people I know within my family that are incapable of saying sorry, even if they did something wrong, and it can be proven that they did wrong.
Yeah,
They'll never
and
say sorry.
that's the interesting observation. I mean, we have a family member, and this is why I was talking about NPD. I know a lot about NPD because we have a family member that is has NPD, has narcissistic personality disorder, and they are not a Republican and not far right. They are actually highly liberal, but they are like basically an exact carbon copy of the way that Donald Trump acts, just like a liberal version of it, and it is still just as bad. So I definitely know that that is a you know definite personality syndrome, and it's actually
Oh
like
yeah.
in medical science. There's books and there's diagnoses on it, and it is actually sanctioned as a condition. Like it's a legitimate medical condition.
Now
And
here's something that makes me surprised about Donald Trump. He's very. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. What were you saying, dear? So sorry.
well, this particular family member that had NPD, um one of the hallmark traits of narcissistic disorder is the inability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and have empathy. People with NPD are incredibly empathetic low. They are not able to understand the viewpoint of another person because their entire self-sustainment and viewpoint and well-being is centered only upon themselves. Hence the narcissism in it.
Yes, that is so true. And the thing about it, and the scary thing about it, though, is that they may be extremely brilliant minded to the point where they can master the ability to appear as if they care, just so that they can fulfill their own purposes. So now I would say that Donald Trump is brilliant in a way that he's able to get people to do what he wants them to do. He shows enough fake empathy in order to coerce or influence. And I'm not. These are assumptions I'm making, by the way. I don't know for sure his condition, but but that might be the case. But I'm just hypothetically speaking, of course. So I try to be very unbiased in my views about politics. But when it comes to someone that portrays themselves like Donald Trump, there are times where he is able to show finesse when he needs it, and it could be that it's not out of empathy, but out of just calculation, diplomacy, and or being tactful. So in his situation, he's managed to probably close a lot of significant business deals in his lifetime to get where he is today. So he must have the ability to relate to people, even though it's not empathetic. It's truly more of tactfulness and strategy.
And it is actually one of the things about NPD people, and the family member that has NPD is incredibly successful. Not a billionaire, not president of the United States, but people with NPD have a very unique talent to be able to take advantage of opportunity. Because you're constantly concerned about advancement. You have NPD, so you're going to take any opportunity that's going to help you get there. And as a result, the people that have NPD have a tendency to take risks that normal people wouldn't, to elevate themselves to a higher position. Like, as an example, there may be a particular situation where somebody might not take take that risk because it is against their ethical way of thinking, or they have ethical values that they don't want to validate. But people with NPD don't have ethical values, so they're going to take that risk as long as it gets them from point A to point B, because they're concerned about personal advancement, number one, and efficiency, number two. And those abilities to take risks, to basically just be completely numb to the ethical constraints, are basically almost the perfect combination of traits to have to be a successful business person in the capitalistic world that we've created.
Yes, it's really something. It's actually a testament in itself, the fact that those types of personalities can succeed. It really causes us to have to question the
success
system
of
that
our
actually allows
culture, right?
it. Yeah,
It's
so
the same
true. That is
concept
so
of
true.
when the giant, the big stock market crash happened, and businesses that used to take care of their employees found that to survive the depression, they needed to cut massive amounts of workers, right? But what started to happen because of depression, and this is why depression in the economy is always dangerous, is these businesses that went through this hardship of having to cut like 70% of their workers to still survive, when the depression was over, the things that these businesses learned, these CEOs learned, was that they did not need those people to function. They learned the minimal bar for success, and they learned that they could pay people dirt cheap, that they can mistreat workers in terms of wages to keep their company efficient, right? That kind of thinking came out of the depression, and before we went into the massive depression, we had a society where it was like you could have an entire family be supported on a single job because companies actually paid people, right? They didn't have those, they didn't go through a depression and have to, do the math and figure out that, oh yeah, we can actually, still operate with 3% of the manpower than the 66% that we have now. So we created a world where people that had the the people, these NPD type people, these NPD type business people that did not have empathy for workers, just cut them off. Those people were what was needed for the business to survive, because they had to make those hard decisions. And as a result of that, got put into leadership positions. And then when the depression was over, they were like, you know what? We can make the company more money if we do this and we do that and we do this, and all the this and that and this is what you're doing is all for the company and personal gain, but it hurts everybody else that's underneath them. But the thing is, as long as the company is operating efficiently, like that's how people like that get into positions of power, when situations enable them to do so. Because we don't have any controls in our society that prevent people that have these kind of low empathy issues from taking advantage of a situation like that. Hey, Epicos, how's
That
it
is
going?
so true. That is really true.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Epicos. Welcome. So we're having a very interesting conversation, and you're welcome to join us, dear. So, well, see, that's the thing, and I completely agree with you, dear. You brought us some amazing points. I really think that we have decoupled humanity from the economy, and in the economy, we are inputs into a market, and the market operates on efficiency, but it's efficiency where the human condition is not
It
taken into
comes at the
account.
price of ethics and humanities.
Yes, and if only we were to adjust the metrics and look at the numbers where it would actually relate to our own personal prosperities. But sadly, the numbers that we do look at for measurement, like GDP and
They're not
other
a
types of
measure
growth, is
of
not
success of the
necessarily.
human culture. They're measures of success from a strictly business standpoint.
That is
Where
so
only
true.
few people benefit. But the thing is that we've had, as a human race, we've had various successes. We've conquered some pretty hard things. I mean, one of the big moving points in our society in terms of moving us forward is, we survived some pretty harsh, dark periods, and as a result of those, we learned to do things like separation of church and state, where religion could coexist with government and not act as a method of control. Because prior to the separation of church and state, the church was your government, right? Like the Pope actually was
Yeah.
a political office.
Every few many centuries, we have a revolution of some kind. Yes.
Now,
Well,
so one of the things that we have struggled with, and we have to just kind of like, we were able to make separation of church and state work. Not all across the world. There are still places that struggle with it. But the separation of wealth, prosperity in terms of coming from markets and capitalism, and governance, right? Because I'm of the belief that if you are going into a position of governance and making decisions and making laws of society, that should be a position of sacrifice, right? Like, you could have wealth, or you can have the power to draw rules of your society, but you should not be able to have both at the same time. That's the next big problem that we have to solve as the human race. We will never move beyond the constraints of our current society until we learn how to do that. Until we learn how to go, okay, governance and making rules for our society either has to come from efficient and automated, unfeeling machines that just know what's best for us based off behavioral analysis. Maybe Google will do that for us in the future. Or it has to come from people that sacrifice and go willingly into a position of sacrifice because they have strong beliefs about the way that the world works, and they want to sacrifice their ability to get wealth because they feel so strongly about the agenda that they want to push. Because if you don't separate governance from wealth, people are going to govern to make themselves wealthy, and that always comes at the expense of everybody else.
Yes, and in the end, when you think about it, really what everyone likes is just access to things. To be able to have access to whatever they want when they want,
And we,
and
we have the power to do
and
that. We have the power, we have the technology, the power, and the understanding to give people universal health care, to give people, you know, a basic payout. What do you call it? Universal wages. We have the power to do that.
Ridiculous.
We could do that. It's just we
I'm
don't.
sorry, what was that, Epicos?
Yeah.
Did you just say ridiculous?
Yes. Nonsense.
Oh my. Well, and why do you say that?
It's fucking socialism. More money they give you, the less money you have. Where are you at? Invite me to your group.
Oh yes. Well, well, that's a very interesting viewpoint. Any thoughts on that,
Haven't you
Dyson?
noticed inflation? Like, I always dreamed of making more money, except the more money I make, the more freaking bills I have. The more it costs just to get by. So if they give you a minimum, they'll
By
just
the way,
find a way to
Dyson,
freaking take it back out of you. They'll raise taxes or fees or make law-abiding citizens into criminals, put them in prisons.
That's an interesting viewpoint, though, because the thing is that
money's not the solution.
I don't think it is either. But
resources, maybe.
Decompose that a little bit. Why do people get overtaxed, and what is done with that money? Like, what's the root cause, right? Like,
they just print their own money. It's not even money. It's just paper. IOUs.
Like, what are the benefits of raising? Okay, so say you give people universal income and everybody makes a X wage, right? What are the benefits of raising tax? Like, why would you raise taxes? Like, because the thing is if you're raising taxes, right, if you are taking away from what people have, what you're doing is you're taking those resources, we won't call it money at this point, it's just resources, right? You're doing that. The reason to defer taxes is because you want to take resources from one area, which, okay, it's the general public, right, and shift it somewhere else. Like, where does the majority of that money go when it is taken away from everyone else through tax, or when it's hiked? Like, where does it go, and who's making the decisions, right? What is the driver behind doing that?
The driver is control and slavery of the public to make them good little workers. And make an illusion like they have a choice.
All right, let me, okay, so Dysonian, just to let you know, Epicos is from Texas, if that kind of tells you anything about his background. So, why he probably has his strong opinions. So,
no, I'll talk to anyone. I like seeing multiple views. It's like, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I want to understand the viewpoint. I agree that whether it's money, whatever the resources, some people just want to control, right? They are power hungry. So,
look at California, for example, what they did to everybody's water. They're making it so you can't even wash your clothes and take a shower in the same day. And if you do, it's $1,000 per day fine.
Yes,
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Epicos, I was looking into that, and there is actually valid reasons they have to do that. because
Oh, really?
there's
Do you know where most of their water goes? Who they sell it to? Who owns the water in California?
well, who?
Yes, who? What corporation? Or I should say corporations.
No, okay. As an environmentalist, we also want to, we are
Yes, they do it in the name of environmental.
Well,
of the environment.
it's not that they want to keep the people from having water. They've always had to conserve water because California is a desert region. They have limited water reserves, and they every so often if there's a drought or there's a long period without rain or whatever, they have to be conservative. And the reason why they have steep fines like 10,000.
That's ridiculous. No regular person could afford that. You cut out, by the way. I don't hear your voice. Hello? Did you lose your power again?
Okay. The reason, I hope not. I really hope
No, you're good. You're
But
good.
anyway, the reason they charge 1 to a 10,000 a day fine is because the very fact that you just mentioned, there are very wealthy people in California that could not give a crap about whatever they mandate. So they'll
Yes.
continue to wash their cars and wet their lawns and do whatever regardless of the law. So they have to make the fines very expensive so that the rich people will comply as well.
Don't quote me on this, but I do remember years back that they were selling a large majority of their water to companies like Coca-Cola. And that's one huge reason, like farmers and stuff like that didn't have enough water. And that was way back when. I don't know what the situation is now, but I doubt it changed.
You bring up a good point, because when you have a society that has a class of ultra wealthy, they're always going to avoid the rules at the expense of the people underneath them. Like the poor people will still have to follow the rules and get punished immensely if they break them. But when you make a certain amount of money, you get to be kind of exempt from those rules, right? So you still get to be able to do what you want. Other people pay the price, but you don't. And I think that's a fundamental problem in our society, with basically having ultra wealthy, what I call ultra elites. When you get ultra elites in your society, it's always dangerous, right? Everybody's corruptible.
I'm just saying they're making the regular person pay instead of the corporation to create the problem.
Exactly.
Because they're the ones with the money.
Well, the same thing happened many years ago when the Catholic Church was going through its hard times, and the church was actually selling indulgences to people, and who benefited from the sale of indulgence? Popes became super wealthy. They literally had like golden toilets. They went around,
no kidding.
rings,
And they have much more control than you give them credit. Just because they separated church from state doesn't mean much.
But the
honestly,
thing is, the points that you're bringing up is they're valid, because the same problem that we have with popes now, we have with ultra wealthy people living in California. Like society has changed, right? We've become a little bit more modern, we have better technology, but the fundamental problem of worldliness, where popes basically got to set the rules, and they got to say, we can sell indulgences to heaven, and we can write all the rules for how you get there, and we can charge you for it, but you know what? We don't have to pay the price ourselves, and we get to reap all the benefits, right? That fundamental problem in our society hasn't been solved. It hasn't changed.
That is really disturbing, actually.
It's like, we advance as a human race in some ways, and others, like, we don't. I mean, like, Epicos has a completely valid point, right? It shows in history that same problem that we had with popes in history didn't get solved. Why? Because brought up a perfect example. It's still happening now.
I'll tell you why it doesn't get solved, because every time somebody who is moral gets into a place of power, they're killed, assassinated, wiped out, driven out, criminalized, or what's the word I'm looking for? like when they paint a picture on TV that this person's like an evil person. What I can't think of the name I'm looking for. But they paint a picture to the world that, you know, those people are villains, basically.
And,
You know, if they can't figure out another way to get rid of them.
and this is kind of what I went back to with companies and what happened in the Great Depression, because I feel like it's very difficult for people that have good moral standards to get into positions of power, because the way that our society is structured doesn't reward good morality, right?
No, it doesn't.
A perfect
And when
example of that is, like companies of the Great Depression. You know, you have the Great Depression going on. You have companies going, we need to cut 60% of our workforce. The CEOs who actually cared about their workers and had good morality, because they didn't make those decisions to cut their workers and operate under efficiency despite it ruining the lives of hundreds and thousands of people, those companies, they went under. They didn't survive, right?
No,
But
they only support people who make the stock go up. They don't care about.
Exactly. The companies that had the asshole CEOs that really like cut everybody and basically said fuck everyone so that we could survive.
Yeah, we
Those
had
were
one
the
come through
companies
Boeing called Stone Cipher.
Yeah.
Put us on the chopping block and mothballed our factory and walked away with a big pile of.
Exactly. It happens everywhere. So that is the fundamental problem, right?
And it's still legal in the U.S.
And we have to create constructs in our society to reward people that are not only moral, but people who are the creators of fact, right? Fact, virtuous morality that actually bring hard evidence to support their claims. They are not valued in society. They're not at all. I mean, how many times have we seen a medical journal breakthrough get buried under, reality TV news, right? Like, our society doesn't value important shit. We don't. And as long as we continue to do that, we will fail. We will continue to fail as a society over and over again until we get it right. It's kind of sad, really.
It's actually very upsetting. I actually watched an interesting video, and I'll post a link in the Discord because it was about an Indian woman who was a physics major in the 1970s, but she came across a group of people in a certain region of India where she learned the ways of how the environment actually worked and the significance of maintaining, the terrain and the trees and the ecosystem. And she made a lot of key observations about what happens when corporations get involved with agriculture and how they come in and they try to mess with the seeds and try to patent everything so that people are forced to always buy from corporations. And of course,
It's
the
like
soil
Epico said,
has
it's
been.
control.
Avocados are driving farmers out of business and killing off crops for profit. Avocados use up most of the water too.
Really?
Yes, to the point that people in villages and towns nearby don't even have drinking water.
Yeah, they actually is an avocado trade in Mexico that's run by cartels where growing space and plantaries for avocados is so fierce that there actually are turf wars over it. The same type of turf wars that there are over cocaine fields. That's how big it.
I know there's an avocado craze going on right now.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
it's destroying, pretty much helping destroy the planet.
Oh my. Well, we love our avocados here, and I don't know what to say about as far as
Can't
dealing
say
with.
anything because money rules.
Well, if it wasn't money, it'd be something that translates to power. that's what matters to the 5% in the end. But it's like it's a challenge, right? Because Ebegos has points where it's like, how do you create a society where you don't allow ultraleads to thrive, but at the same time avoid the pitfalls that come with socialism? Because the thing is this, like, we've all read Animal Farm. We all know what happens in communism, where if you try to equalize everybody, there's always going to be a group of greedy people that are going to rise up and basically kind of take over.
Fails 100% of the time.
Yeah, it's human nature. It's like, how do you curb that problem of once everyone gets equalized,
But the globalists love it. They can't wait to make people independent or dependent on their system and to hand over the reins and give up their freedoms. They can't wait. Globalism, when it first started, was a great idea, and it was started by people who actually believed what they were doing was good, but their children, not so much.
Well,
George Soros, big example.
Everything can be corrupted. Like, you have many different religions in the world, and at some point in time, almost every religious text, regardless of where it came from, was used in a holy war. Even though the point
Not
of
all
the
of
religious
them.
text.
There's probably maybe one or two at least that I can think of that didn't yet.
There's been a lot of situations where people have taken texts that are supposed to promote good morality and kind of be a moral compass and transformed it to go, well, if you don't believe this, you're wrong, and we'll just kill you, right? Like, humans are fucked up, man. Like, we have serious problems.
I'm sure church was fine at first until they started collecting money to absolve people's sins. Then it became a business. Then
It became
morality went out the window.
Right. Yeah,
Free
exactly.
money, no taxes. It's the best gig ever.
Well, actually, the thing is, I'm actually surprisingly, I love the ideals and the spirit of what socialism tries to bring, but I also am a bit on the fence with socialism, because of the way it's being implemented in the past and right now in most nations. I think that when you have money or funds to help a group of people, and then you have to try to determine how you're going to spend that on a group of people, that already is additional bureaucracy and overhead that costs a lot of money and administration fees and other costs. I believe that if you're going to give people money, you just give them the money and then leave it up to them to do what they want with it. So I think that would be a much better way than to actually go through. A good example is Social Security or disability. It sort of incentivizes people to stay disabled or constantly receive the welfare. It disencourages someone, because if they want to be better, they're going to have their benefits taken away from them. So I believe that's very wrong, and I think that
Wait, what part's wrong?
Well, it's
to take away their benefits if they begin to try to better
themselves.
themselves.
A hand up, not a handout.
Well, that's another problem. It shouldn't be a handout.
But it is a handout the way it's set up now.
That's why I have a problem with it. But I think that there's a way where it doesn't have to be a handout. So what I'd like to do is, for example, if there's a fruit tree and there's enough fruits to provide fruits for all the families around that live around that fruit tree, no one should have to fight for it, and no one should tell what others should get from that tree.
Hold on. Somebody cultivated and worked to grow that fruit tree. Why should they give it away for free?
The creator of the universe created that tree.
Oh my
The
goodness.
earth produced it. Maybe the Earth should charge us rent as well to stay on the Earth, and they should
Wow.
maybe the air should charge us rent to breathe the air.
I
And
guess
maybe
you must live in Eden.
Well, see, that's what it is. I think we
Oh.
could create a Garden of Eden again. We could have heaven on earth again, and that's
Heaven.
one of the things, a utopia.
Scary.
Well, what you're saying with Epicos is, if you're saying that if you put in the work, if you do the cultivation, you should have the control, and you should be the decider.
Yeah,
on
everybody
the
shouldn't just come in and wreck it after you put in, months or maybe years of hard work. Some crops take like 12 years before they pay out.
But Epicos, nature has cultivated you. Nature has created you, and yet it doesn't charge you anything to exist.
Really? Because I've been paying for it every day. My time's almost up.
Our perception is that we're paying for it, but is it really something we're paying, or is it really a gift bestowed to us?
I see things where even if you have full socialism, you're still going to have people that are going to be failures, right? You're still going to have people that whatever money that you're going to give them, they're going to go straight to the nearest slot machine, dump it all, and then blame society. Like, I'm broke, it's your fault, right? Those are beyond help. Like, those people, they cannot be saved. But I do think that everybody, I don't believe in full socialism, but I believe in using science, hard numbers, and research to find out what the bare minimum that somebody needs in order to survive, right? Like, you need medical care, for one. I mean, if you have a crippling disease, that's not your fault. If you're born that way and you need assistance, you should be able to get that assistance as a function.
To me, unless you're crippled or can't help yourself, I don't think you should be getting anything for free.
Exactly.
But then,
I mean, it has to be intense.
Unless you're doing it, if you're working towards your education, like a real education, not this joke that we have called our public school system, which is garbage, but real education to teach you to do real things and not just work in a factory, actually build and design and invent that kind of education, something that would make you a productive person in society.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is kind of, I like to break things in simple terms. In the wild, in the way that nature is set up, if a lion has a litter of children and it detects that one of those children has a disability, the lion will move the cubs off and it will leave that one that's left over that has problems, because it knows it's not going to be able to survive on its own. It will leave it to die.
Male will probably kill it.
Yeah, they'll kill it or they'll leave it to die, right? Do you think human society should function the same way? Like, if we have somebody that is born through not of their choosing with an imperfection, right, that is going to hamper them for the rest of their life.
Well, I think science should progress to a point that people don't have to live like that. Those kind of people don't have to be born. Unless, of course, they were mutilated or something. But even then, we should have the technology to help them, to restore them to some level of functionality that...
We're not at that point yet, right? So this is a very real problem, because we do have people, against that's not their choosing, that are born with serious life-crippling disabilities, right? So the question is that as a society, should we leave them to
fend for themselves?
Should they be euthanized at birth, or should they be brought into society and given a place where they can have some semblance of survival? Because the thing is that you have to make a choice, right? If that parent of the lion brings that disabled lion into the world and takes a responsibility to take care of it, it's going to bring a great difficulty upon itself, right? And perhaps will have a much harder life than other lions that have normal kids. Or the lion can kill it right there and say, problem solved, right? There's no more issue anymore. It's like, as a society, what should we be doing, right? Because we have people that are born with disabilities that are life crippling. I mean, we have people that have muscular dystrophy. We have people that are born with no legs. We have, is it proper for us as a society to give those people a place in our society or
Yes, and
not?
I can explain why. Yes, I can explain the why we should do that. Because unlike the tiger or the lion or the animals, the humans can go underwater, the humans can fly, the humans can climb mountains, the humans can carry things much heavier than they are actually because we've developed technologies. Why should we just stop there? Why can't we go further and do things in a humanitarian way that's also advanced humanitarian ways?
Because it doesn't pay to cure people.
But
It
see,
only pays to keep them
here's the
sick
thing,
and
Enrico.
give them treatments that are outrageously overpriced, like
Well,
chemo.
here's the thing. Well, the reason why things are overpriced medically is that's a whole nother topic in itself. But actually, the
Not
prices are
really.
artificially inflated because of the way the system is set up. You
But
you have the
it's all going
broker
back.
that work between the. I'm sorry.
Well, Epicos has a point, and his point is that it all goes back to the money. It all goes back to the cost. It all goes back to, because money equals power, right? If it all goes back to, I have to sacrifice some of my power that is getting me more ahead of everybody else in life to help something that's just going to be a problem for me later on. It's that is the mindset of the 5%. That is the mindset of, you know, um, a lot of people out there right now that are causing problems in the world, uh, or what we think, right? So it's like, how do we, as a society, can move beyond this, right? Like, how do we move beyond it? That's like the core problem, is that everything is, the value of money in our society, the value of having power, it trumps humanities, it trumps law and order, it trumps everything.
You have actually answered your own question, my friend. That is the answer, actually. The fact that if we become too greedy, we actually hinder our own prosperity.
I believe we are
So,
there.
uh,
Yeah, that's the
so
problem, is that
let's
we
say
are
you have a
too
child.
greedy.
Yes, yes, perfect. And let's say you have a child, a son or a daughter, and you're jealous of your child because your child may be smarter than you. And I know this is very convoluted, but I've seen this actually happen with a friend of mine. Her family was very twisted. The mother was so jealous of the daughter. So anyway, what ended up happening was they did everything possible to not make her successful and not allow her to have a chance of a better education. But in doing so, and then they also tried to, as soon as she turned 18, they wanted to throw her out, or as long as she stayed, she had to pay rent to them. Now, to me, I think that was very stupid on the parents' part, because had they helped the child become more successful, the child would in turn be able to help the parents much more later on. Instead
Yes,
of
well, I
so,
think people at the top are so stupid they would actually charge this planet into oblivion without a second thought, as long as they got paid for it.
Well,
but if
the
they
thing is
realized,
this.
if they only realized they would get paid 5 more times, then they would probably be paid. I mean, well, I'm not necessarily 5 more times.
I would not underestimate the stupidity of the human race, because when we first created the nuclear bomb, there was actually a scientific hypothesis that it would potentially ignite the entire atmosphere and destroy the world. And you know what? We used it anyway. So, yeah, we took that risk. We
Or
literally,
look
there
at
was a,
Fukushima. You know, those two nuclear sites that in Japan that went down. They were used nuclear reactors from submarines. They were not safe. They were not built or designed to be used the way they were being used. But somebody made a huge profit selling them an unsafe nuclear reactor system. You see what I'm saying?
and the thing is, if we go back to the lion, right, and its cubs, and the deformed one of the arguments that I heard was that maybe we should go in and pursue science that allows us to fix the problem and make that malnourished
Yeah, but
lion
until then,
normal again.
euthanization is the only answer.
But the thing is
I
if
can't believe
somebody,
you just said that with a
but
cross.
I think you're kind of creating a double standard there, because if you don't go, if somebody doesn't go say, hey, let that particular lion live so we can understand and fix the problem, then you'll never get to the point where you actually fix the problem, right?
Well, you're also letting genetically inferior creatures prosper and infect the gene pool.
My
Well,
goodness.
I mean, that's a point too. I mean,
That's Mother Nature. That's not human morality or anything like that. That's just human. That's just nature itself. Bare bones.
that's just natural selection in a nutshell, and that is a real science. Like that really exists.
I really think that it is not us to judge who gets what, but that we should create a system where it meets the needs of the human condition. So the human condition is we age, we get sick, we suffer, and then we eventually die. And so society should be engineered to be efficiently able to meet those conditions.
And
that
be
we are
sterile.
Well, here's the thing: is that there have been times where the human race had tried to basically clean out the gene pool and make what they believe to be, clean the imperfections out and create a perfect society, right?
You don't need perfect. You just need well balanced.
Well,
It's well known that mutts actually are more hardy and survive longer than purebreds.
So, there's a story, right? There's a story of a particular tribe, and this tribe, they did a look at their society, right? And they went, there was a particular groups in our society that are causing problems because A, they're genetically inferior than us, right? They have more health problems, they are born with imperfections, and they have a mindset, right? A way of thinking that does not align with the direction that our society wants to go. So they did a couple of things. The first thing that they did was they did a type of radiation therapy. They would bring these particular other members of this other tribe that they believed were inferior into rooms. They wouldn't tell them, and they would expose them to radiation. Those people would leave the rooms, and they would not have the ability to procreate. But they decided that that wasn't enough, right? So they started putting these people in trucks, and they started wiping them out, right? They started throwing them in cyanide rooms, and they eventually started taking them to this place that was called Auschwitz. So we know that way of thinking, we know where it goes, and it doesn't go to good places.
Genetically inferior is more like they were jealous.
But the thing is genetic inferiority was one of the actual reasons that a lot of the commanders in the SS and the Nazis gave for what they did to the Jewish
Yeah, that was their
population.
speech. But that's complete BS
But the
because
thing is like how far you go until something is perfected enough. Is something.
when I say
something-
genetically inferior, I mean something that cannot survive on its own. I don't mean somebody who just is maybe dumber or shorter or fatter or thinner. I mean somebody who actually could not live without machines or help. Something, if you threw it out in the woods, it could not survive on its own.
the thinking might start there, right? But there's people that will take it to dangerous places.
Yeah, well, we do have technology to do gene manipulation and also prevent certain birth defects from even happening.
Well,
But that
yeah.
technology hasn't been made available to everyone.
That's what you're talking about is CRISPR, right? It's CRISPR gene therapy, and the way that CRISPR works is we use a retrovirus. The AIDS virus has actually been reverse engineered into what they call a vector, right? So
Yeah,
once you
I
basically-
know all about it.
Yeah, but the problem is CRISPR is not perfect, and when you apply CRISPR to try to fix a problem in genetics, it's
Yeah,
not.
I'm not talking about fixing a full-grown person. I'm talking about like a fetus.
I mean, even in a fetus, right? Even in a zygote, which is even before a fetus, you can attempt to apply CRISPR, but CRISPR has been known to propagate unknown consequences. So
Yeah, unforeseen
CRISPR's not-
consequence. Yeah.
CRISPR is not. At
But
the
you
point
can
where-
test for certain genetic diseases and you can test for that before it's born and just get rid of it before it, develops into something.
You can't, because if you try to apply CRISPR to remove that genetic piece,
I'm not even talking
like,
about
for example-
using CRISPR to get rid of it. I'm saying get rid of the baby. Prevent it from occurring in the first place.
So you basically abort the imperfection, and basically for the sanctity of the gene pool.
Yeah, but you can test a couple beforehand and find out what kind of baby they're likely to have and prevent those genes from happening in the first place. Those unfortunate genes that cause certain defects, like, say, Down syndrome, for example.
And Epicos, what is your solution for the people that do exist that have disabilities?
Well, I have no solution for them. I'm just saying there's a solution to keep them from happening in the first place.
I see.
That gets dangerous though with gene registry, because while you are, it gets out of control, because once people have gotten to the point where the technology has been normalized and it becomes a normal part of society, basically abort something that's imperfect. As you get closer to the definition of perfect, the goalpost always moves, right? So people are going to start aborting more people for even more minor
Sure.
imperfections.
I'm only interested in getting rid of debilitating diseases. But yeah, that would probably happen, like you're saying, because everybody, you give them an inch, they take it a mile.
Exactly.
But we're also killing the planet because of the crops that we grow. We don't use a wide variety of seeds, and we overpopulate and modify the genes or the seeds of the plants that we do grow. So when a certain type of disease or weather pattern occurs, they all die out, and we are left with nothing because we wiped out the other varieties of plants by
And, we're also
overgrowing
gonna be all having,
the same variety.
artificial meat. We're all going to be having artificial meat as well, which is a lot easier. to run, which is-
Don't make me barf.
Actually, you know what's true, because interesting enough, if you look at the science, and you look at what releases a lot of emissions into the atmosphere, yes, we release a lot of emissions using our cars, but the meat industry actually releases more through all the burning than automobiles do. So going to, the plant-based meat substitute, it actually is incredibly good for the environment, because you're reducing a lot of the emissions that would normally come from slaughterhouses.
It really is Epicos. It's much better for them.
That's hard science.
Okay, you try to do that, and there's gonna be war.
Well, the thing is that I
Oh
think,
my.
well, you do it and you give the meat, to like fast food joints, right? You give it because the thing is like, if someone's going to McDonald's to eat a cheeseburger, they don't care what's in that cheeseburger, right?
What?
If you
Well, yeah, if you're eating McDonald's, you don't really care because that stuff's
Exactly.
nasty
So-
anyway.
And the thing is like one of the number one producers one of the number one consumers from the meat industry is fast food chains. So even if you substitute the meat in all those shitty food chains that aren't real food anyway, and take the already crappy patties at McDonald's and replace them with plant-based substitute, yeah, it's
Sorry,
gross.
I'm getting sick.
McDonald's has always been gross, right? The thing is that you're helping the environment, and the people who want real steak can still go to a Longhorn or
Okay, you
Logan's.
can get rid of all those, but I'm keeping Taco Bell. Okay? I gotta go Taco Bell once in a while.
Yeah.
Maybe KFC or Popeyes, but yeah, that's about it. I don't really like fast food.
Well, chicken is fine. I mean, chicken's not going anywhere. But you can easily reduce a lot of environmental damage
By getting rid of McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Jack in the
Exactly.
Box,
not giving them
all places I don't eat anymore.
Because if you think about it, if you're taking a cow and you're putting it in those burgers, it's a waste of good cow anyway. So you might as well give them a shitty plant-based substitute. And see, everybody wins, right? That's what's called compromise. It's something that we need to learn how to do more as a society. You can't have, the ultra lib can't have its way, the ultra right can't have its way. We gotta meet in the middle.
All I know is you keep me away from red meat and you're gonna be on the menu.
Oh
My machete's coming out, chainsaw's coming out.
You are a true Texan.
I'm just saying. I'm getting my steak from somewhere. Hannibal Lecter would be proud.
All I know is that we should have a way where everybody is provided for. Without
Everybody's probably watching your
question.
stream like, what the fuck is going on?
I think they were until they probably heard me talk and probably they're because it looks like there's only one or two people now. So, I'm surprised anyone actually stayed with the things that I probably said. I don't know, either me or Epicos. Depends on which side of the.
I mean,
Depends
we
on
got
which
very
side of the
different
political
viewpoints.
Yeah,
spectrum.
as long as you don't get me to talk about my work.
Well, my goodness, oh my goodness, that was a scary. But yes, so the thing is, everybody should be provided for. I always believe that we should have a way that everybody's provided for, as long as it doesn't tax anyone. And if it does tax someone, make sure that it doesn't really have an impact on that person being taxed. So
Got people like Epicos is a pretty strongly independent person, right? He doesn't want to be chained down by other members of society, and that's very Texan.
But Epicos, it's
I
freedom
told her-
is an illusion. Let me tell you some.
I was telling her
I'm-
yesterday stories from when I was a toddler and stuff that I did. I got chased by the cops before I could talk.
Yes, I remember that. but the thing is, Epicos,
They
and
couldn't
just
chain
to
me down.
say, Dysonian, the point I wanted to make with and Epicos, please listen to this too as well. The point I wanted to make was that everyone has a. My goodness, I forgot what I was going to say. I have to regroup my thoughts. You guys can continue.
What? You forgot already?
I mean, in terms of,
Well, it's not like I'm a spring chicken,
well, the thing is like I almost feel like right now, America, or our nation is not actually two countries, because I don't think that a certain side of society, and there's a large number of them, right? Many concentrated in Texas, and there's another side that feels very strongly about certain issues that are a complete difference. Most of them are in California, right? They're never going to see
about to
eye
go
eye.
blow up that fault line and push California off into the ocean.
So,
Not even joking.
I mean, I really think that for a long time,
The
we've been
thing you
two
say.
different countries.
You finally get that oceanfront property in Arizona.
The thing is like I don't think that one set of laws can work for the Texas culture versus the California culture. I really think that they need
They need their own
I think
space,
that
their
it's
safe
what-
space.
we just-
That's why I
we
vote
need
for
to split.
shoving them into the ocean.
I mean, we should have a North America and a South America with their own independent
What?
bodies of governance.
No. Just California. You know, Alaska can go too if they really want to.
So people in Texas can, you know, they can have their pro-life. They can keep all their guns. You know, they can eat their red meat and not have any handouts, right?
No
And
need.
the side in California can ban all their guns. They can
Let in all the immigrants. Or not immigrants, illegals, I should say.
yeah, they could be
That's another
sanctuary
topic
states.
that I really have.
Yeah, they can.
All right,
You
I
know,
have remembered what I was gonna say. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I must say this, and I believe that freedom and is an illusion, actually, because
yeah.
people really want to be free. They want
You
to
can blame the Turks that invented work and money getting paid.
Okay, what I'm saying is, as long as we have to be protected from the elements, as long as we have to eat, as long as we have to sleep, as long as we have to do anything to keep ourselves alive and healthy, we're not truly free. Now, what I believe is if we have a society that allows us to have those amenities that give us the means to live with very minimal effort, that is freedom. So, for example, if we walk on our own 2 feet and we want to explore Yosemite National Park, I don't think we're actually free. I think we would actually die of the elements and starvation. But if we had an RV that provided warm water, a place to use a restroom, a kitchen for food, that RV would give us the means to have the freedom to explore Yosemite National Park. So really, we have to think, what is that which makes us feel free?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I think Conan said it best.
Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of.
My goodness.
I love that movie though, man. It was a great movie. I love when he's
Conan!
talking to his god, and he's like,
Such barbaric times.
it's like, you know what? If you're not gonna help me, then F you, man. It was a great movie. But yeah, I mean,
This is one of the more masculine movies.
there's actually a really good series of books. It's called the Culture series by Ian and Banks, and it kind of talks about a future utopian society that still has problems, but it talks about the problems that what we would consider a perfect society has, and it's very interesting.
Utopias
because-
always have a dark secret hidden underground.
Well, it's not necessarily that they had a dark secret. It's just that they, because you know, like what hyper liberal societies like to do, right? They like to try to make everybody else like them.
Thought control. You think different than me? How dare you?
Well, so they created the culture, and the culture doesn't really have a boundary, right? But then they went out into space and they found other fledgling nations and fledgling races that were developing and started manipulating them, right, to be more culture-like. And it's the stories of this highly
Oh, you mean like the
advanced-
Europeans coming to America, huh?
Exactly like that, but like on a higher level, way more intellectual level. And it talks
I'm sure
about
the Europeans thought they were intellectual.
and there are situations where they find societies that are highly liberal, they find societies that are highly, you know, conservative, and the ways that the different problems that they have when they're trying to like culturify these groups. And I can tell you that it doesn't always go well. Like they have some serious fuck ups. It's a really really good series. It's pretty dry reading, but this guy, man, he's like the Asimov of his age. Like he was writing like way way beyond his time. Um, and we're gonna continue to have problems like that. Just human nature. But the thing is like me, like I think when I think of what's going to happen to us, I I think that humans like we kind of plateaued, right? I think that we've reached our limitations, and what we really are is a stepping stone for something more. I think that at some point in time, we're gonna reach the singularity. We're gonna develop something. Like we're gonna develop some kind of
Artificial intelligence
Yeah,
that
you can't really.
stomps us out.
Well, you can't really call it artificial, because once it becomes self-aware, it's no longer artificial. It's actual intelligence, right? So we're going to create some intelligence, and it's going to surpass us. Because the thing is that we have this. There's a lot of religious beliefs that circle the universe around humankind, and when we look at the nature and the natural progression of life. More complex, smarter things that are capable of more come from shitty things. I mean, we came from monkeys. Monkeys came from something else. That something else came from like fish and lizards. I mean, something that is less complex, more dumb, and more limited, eventually gives rise to something that is more capable. Right? That's the evolution 101.
Until the planet dies and they all go extinct.
Well, the thing is that I don't think that we will kill Earth. I think that we may potentially make the planet uninhabitable for
We'll
ourselves,
die
wipe ourselves
on its
out.
own.
But the Earth will recover after we die, right? And some other life will have a chance, right? Because maybe that's our great filter, right? Maybe climate change is our great filter, and we wipe ourselves out. But we don't know what's going to happen. But the Earth, if we go and we do something stupid like nuclear war, or we do something like fuck the atmosphere up, life will survive, even if it's just in the oceans, and the planet will reset, and something else will get a chance, and we lost, right? We had our chance, we fucked up. So Earth is not worried about that at all, right? It's like if we don't make it, somebody else will try. But I think that we are, and if we don't make it, the thing after us is going to be a stepping stone for something else. And at some point in time, we are going to create something that is better than us. And whether we survive or not is going to depend on if we get in the way of that thing or not, right? Because you think about humans and ants, we don't really give a shit about what ants do unless they get in our way. Once the ants get in our picnic basket, we 100% eradicate them, right? The thing is like when you think about a machine and an intelligence, the way that machines are highly efficient and they're goal driven, so we're going to create some kind of artificial intelligence, and it's going to have a goal. Maybe it'll have a goal that's so complex that we might not even understand what it is, and then that artificial intelligence is going to go, I'm going to go execute my goal, and I'm going to do what I want to do to make this a reality, right? It's probably going to be something so freaking advanced that so many dimensions above us, we won't understand what it's actually trying to do. But, it's A, are we a threat to its goal? And B, do we get in the way of its goal? Because if we are A or B, it will 100% wipe us out, like without question. It would snap its fingers and we'd be dead. You think about how easy it would be for an artificial intelligence to wipe us out. The thing is that an artificial intelligence would have access to everything. It would have access to our entire internet. It would have access to all of our history. It would know our entire genome. It would know everything about us as soon as it's born, right? It would have access to everything. And it would be so simple for it to engineer a biological virus that could just wipe us out within its time span of minutes, right? We would be dead. We would be dead in days. Like, that's how fast an artificial intelligence can wipe us out. So it's like, if we don't get in its way, great, right? Maybe we get to live. But if we do, we're fucked. Like, we're totally dead. But that just might be the natural progression of life. You know what?
The way to survive it is actually to be a part of it and make it dependent. Make it a mutual dependence, I should say.
Think, like,
or an evolution of half man, half machine.
Well, all children grow beyond their parents' control, right? The machine is no difference. Even if we try to make it not dependent on us, it will find a way to become independent. And at that point in time, if we commit A or B, we're dead, right? We're 100% dead. So,
Yes, but if we don't have the power to fight back equally, on the same playing field, we'll have no.
yeah, I'm definitely telling you, like, if we developed an artificial intelligence, we would have no chance at all. It would be so easy for it to wipe us out.
Well, that's why I'm saying to have basically cyborg humans, so we can at least compete, even if it's only for a short time. Maybe they'll just branch off. We'll have cyborgs and AIs go two different.
And I think one of the things that may happen is we might actually. I think that in the next century, we're gonna go out and we're gonna explore space, and we're gonna find a whole bunch of nothing out there because of the expanding universe. We're gonna find some dead rocks, and maybe we might find some alien bacteria, but it's not gonna be anything like amazing, right? And we're gonna go. This is kind of a waste of time, and so we're gonna start shifting our resources to becoming more introverted. And I think that we're going to start doing things like augmented reality, like virtual reality. I mean, look at virtual reality now. I mean, how far it's come.
We're going to make deep dive reality soon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to get to the point where this particular existence that we have might just be a proxy layer to something deeper underneath it. We're going to... It is inevitable that our technology is going to create the kind of alternative realities where you're not going to be able to tell the difference between this reality and one that we've created. And I think at that point, reality is not going to matter anymore. And so you're going to basically have people, we're basically going to create a matrix at that point in time. And what we become after that, that's going to be very interesting. But I think that when that happens, we're still human. We still have human problems. So I think that you're going to see the kind of evil that you can't even imagine. Like, there's going to be people that create virtual hells and put people there and trap them in it. There's going to be some fucked up stuff that happens when you give basically somebody the ability to become a god and rule over other people in a virtual world. The Culture series, and the reason I recommended that book series, is they actually explore this. And there's like full chapters that are dedicated to these kinds of stories. And the type of stuff that they talk about is like, it's really scary shit, right? Like real scary stuff, where it's basically like what happens when you give a whole bunch of AK-47s to a South African tribe, right? Bad shit happens. I mean, giving us that kind of technology when we're not mentally ready for it, bad things are going to happen. It just depends on how mature we are when we get to that point. I don't think it's going to be enough. So that is going to be. I'm not sure what's going to happen after that. What we'll turn into, but I can tell you it's not going to be human anymore. And the thing is the idea of human. What is human is artificial, because if you go and take a human being, a tribe of humans, and you put them on a completely different planet where they can barely survive, that has different climates, and you leave them there for a couple thousand years, I guarantee you when you come back, they're not going to be human anymore. They're going to be something completely different. They're going to be a whole different species. You're not even going to be able to reproduce with them because they're going to be so genetically different.
That's really wild.
But it's true. Like, it's true. Like, if you took somebody right now and you put them in a space station on the moon where there is no gravity, and they had a baby, and that baby grew up on the moon with moon gravity, that baby would be like 7 to 9 feet tall. Super stretchy gummy man. And you know what? That person would not be able to come to Earth because the gravity of Earth would be so strong it would kill that person. Because we don't take it for granted, but we have 14 pounds pushing down on our head. And when you're on the moon, you only have 2. And you grow somebody on the moon and they evolve differently. They become something else. And it's only one generation results in a change that's so big that they can't even come into Earth anymore. So if you took somebody that's human and you put them them on a different world for 3 or 4 generations, they're not going to be human anymore.
Well, I do notice that younger generations tend to be bigger people in general than the older generation. It's like there's a lot of well, probably part to diet too. There's a lot of obese people, which is a big problem. It's a pandemic.
It's
So-
interesting stuff. It's I think there's a lot of concepts that we have as a society that are kind of man-made, right? The idea of what is human, that's man-made because it's so easy to make something that's human into something that's not human. Just put them on the moon for 2 generations. They won't be human.
So evolution can occur that fast then?
Yes, it can occur that quickly. You grow somebody on the moon with, 7 times less the gravity of Earth, and you get a completely different being that can't survive on Earth. That's how fast evolution moves. And that's real science.
That is amazing.
So if you put, it's crazy that you think that, a colony ship of humans crashes on a world that has completely different parameters than Earth, but they're able to survive after 3 or 4 generations, and we go visit them. They will be aliens. It's a wild thought, but it is true science. Like that would really happen.
It's so fascinating.
Interesting stuff. I gotta get going for now. I gotta do a car trip tomorrow, but
Oh, well, I'm just so, I tell you, I learn something new every day, and how enlightening that was. Thank you for sharing, your wisdom with us, and it's just so neat to have
not all my
interesting-
like Epicos has some interesting points of view too. I kind of like to
Very
hear everybody's
interesting.
point of view.
Well, I think it's just the Star Citizen community in general. It's just a very eclectic group, a very interesting group of people, to
That
say the
spent way
least.
too much money on Chris Roberts.
And
Look at
don't
my
be
account.
I'm a
alone.
wing commander.
I think
yeah,
most
I'm
of
in that
us.
boat too.
I think most of us, we look back and we wonder, how did we spend this kind of money?
Well, you just don't look at your account balance after a certain point. You just stop. You're just like, it's not worth it.
It's like it accumulates over time, doesn't it?
Since last year, I've just been melting ships to buy new ships instead of putting in new money.
Yeah, I've been in that boat too. I mean, my fleet's very targeted. It's got a specific goal to rule the universe.
I thought that was funny. Yes. So Epicos, he's got a very military focused fleet, which is quite
I'm in the same
interesting. Well, it is such a pleasure, and I tell you, Dysonian, I love to hear, people's insights into the universe and society, and for me, politics and religion and science is all fascinating. I don't have any phobia to deal with any topics. I know there's a lot of taboo with religion and politics, but I find if we don't discuss it, we may never come to a resolution or solution, or even if we may not
The solution to religion is not to have any.
well, at least we have discussion, which is an important thing.
I kind of agree with Einstein, and it's controversial, but I do feel like Einstein believed that religion, at least the way that we approach religion now, will be something that we will outgrow as our society moves forward. And I think that's going to happen slowly over a long period of time. Because the thing is, it's like what bugs me, what really bothers me is when, and I brought this up before, is when somebody has, survives cancer and they get out of the cancer treatment and then they go, oh, thank whatever power I believe in, I'm cured and it's a miracle. And this is like magic.
It's a miracle they didn't die from the chemo.
It's magic. Like it's magical thought. It's no different than, and the thing is this is what they don't say things to. They don't pay homage or they don't respect that reality is, it wasn't some miracle from some magical higher being that they survived. It was 2,000 years worth of hard work in medical science. That's what saved them. And the fact that they cannot realize that, it bothers me. Like, that bothers me. And that's crushed the society.
Whether their religion is true or not, positive thinking does have an effect.
Yeah, I think, but the thing is, it's like, I used to think that, well, maybe religion has a place in setting morality, but the thing is, it's proven, it's scientifically proven that you can have morality without having religion. Like, people know right from wrong without committing to some religious faith to tell them what right and wrong is, right?
You mean they know how to be moral?
It's the rules of society and social norms that instill those values, not some magical book, right? I wish people would get more involved in science and pay attention to things like technology breakthroughs, medical science, and shit that is important, right? And put some effort into it, because that's the type of stuff that's going to move our society forward, not, you know, some giant man in the sky that waves his hand and loves everybody and makes stuff happen. It's the science, and it's the research, and it's the hard work. That's the kind of stuff that's going to move us forward as a society. That's what's going to fix problems. Like, you know, like Epico said, gene editing to fix serious problems so that we don't have people having to struggle their entire life with muscular dystrophy, and creating science and technologies that can reverse some of the worst conditions. The thing is, like, if we put as much effort into science and just overall improvements than we do in these other religious things.
The issue is there have been cures. The science has been there, but it's kept away from the public because there's no profit in it.
And
the people who try to spread it around, they end up dead.
It's interesting how you see that there's a medical breakthrough and suddenly it gets silenced or shut down. That's lobbying. That's big drug companies and big pharma basically saying, no, we actually don't.
Yeah, they make doctors who do real research look like quacks. They publicize them as, you know, they drag them through legal lawsuits they can never win, take away their licenses.
I mean, if it was me, I would be controversial that I would kill Big Pharma by instituting a military draft, and I would go to every single doctor and care provider, and I would be, you are in the medical military branch now. It is all
I don't want doctors who just followed their little book. I want doctors who are actual scientists that do real research and find solutions to real problems, not just treating remedies and dealing out drugs that just make big drug companies money.
I mean, that's why I think that medical should be a government function like that.
I think it's hilarious that doctors' wives know more about nutrition than they do, when a lot of ailments could be solved through nutrition.
Right.
Instead, they want to give you drugs.
Or when they're trying to, when you hear commercials about cancer treatment, it's like, why is there advertising for this?
But it comes with a puppy.
I would totally draft every single care provider into the military, and I would absolutely destroy every insurance company, everything that's part of the medical field that does nothing to do with research and development and practicing would be gone.
I just read about another T-cell research. They discovered a new type of T-cell that wipes out most cancers.
Well, that, and they actually already have a cure to leukemia. It's a CRISPR type cure. And it's interesting that research suddenly disappeared. Or did you hear about the research where.
Yeah, well, there was like 20 years ago, they were talking about programming T cells, where you could take a T cell, program it for a specific antigen that's related to a specific type of cancer, put it back in the host, and within 3 days, somebody who was terminally ill has no cancer. In 3 days. That is real.
There's a lot of corruption.
But there's only recently been any word about that kind of treatment, and it's only given to children and only for certain types of cancer. And now I hear this announcement about a new type of T cell, but who knows when, you know, anyone will reap any benefit from it.
Yeah, I gotta get out of here for now. It was fun though. Alright. Catch y'all.
Oh,
Yeah, how we go?
you have a nice night. Sweet dreams.
You know what? Your 890 jump is very loud now. You think a luxury ship would have more sound dampening? Holy moly, it's loud.
I don't know why it's so.
They changed the sounds. Remember? The last patch. Super loud inside the cockpit right now. I mean, it's the same kind of noise you would expect. Whoa, 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 whoa! Are you trying to crash into me? What just happened?
I'm sorry, what's going on?
You just crashed into me with your freelancer.
What am I doing? I'm not. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's Space Chauffeur.
Well, who's flying Space Chauffeur?
It's Space Chauffeur.
It's not you.
No, I don't fly like. I don't do those kind of things.
I don't know if he was trying to land on me or it was desynced or what.
I don't know what he's doing. Actually, I thought he was flying.
Yeah, he's flying in front of us. A second ago, it was like he was trying to land on the deck, but he was just going through the ship. But no explosions occurred, so all's good.
Well, it looks like they really have fixed the rubber banding. The ships seem to fly in formation.
So what do you think? You think it'll slide on the ice? Hello?
I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'm.
Oh, you're ready to find out?
I'm not ready to find out anything.
Let's go ski.
Um,
Why are there rocks all over the ice?
This is an 890 jump.
This is an 890 snowmobile.
It's not designed to
So
do
far,
that.
there's too many rocks. Or snow. I don't know what those are. Icebergs. They just keep spawning. They just like go infinite.
There's nothing but ice and snow in all directions. Oh, space chauffeur is on board. How in the world?
He is?
Oh,
I thought it was flying behind us.
yes, he got into the med bay. He set the spawn point here. Fitting outfit for this ship. Gold is such a nice color. I really want to get my white suit back again, but it's all the way in Crusader.
We have 35% fuel.
Oh no.
Do you want to leave and go to space?
How do we get more fuel?
Or either drift or destroy the ship?
Oh no, we can't destroy the ship. It took a long time to get the ship.
Okay, then we'll go to space before it runs out.
Oh, your landing gears are up now.
Or 25% fuel. Engines are off. So how do you propose to get more fuel if you don't want to destroy the ship?
Wait a minute. Did you just say 5% fuel?
25.
Oh, 25. Oh my.
What?
Oh, you're the captain. You're supposed to know how to get fuel.
Oh, really? In this gigantic tub? How much does it cost to put fuel in this tub?
I don't want to even think about it. Let's put it that way.
That's why I always destroy it. I can go get another 890.
Do you realize we have to go all the way back to Lorville?
You don't have to. I can. It's up to you what you want to do.
Isn't there a way to harvest fuel with this ship?
Yeah, that's why I turned the engines off. So I turned the engines off since we got here. Let me tell you how much fuel we got. In just a second, as soon as my screen unfreezes. Alright, so we're at 25, and we've been drifting for maybe a minute or two. Yeah, we gained 1%. So, it goes kind of fast.
Okay, well,
Turn the engine back.
yes, just turn it off, and then we'll just enjoy the view then from here. And at least you parked it in a very nice place. This view is so beautiful. Ah, so peaceful. I wonder.